These are all being recorded. And so what we're going to do is record all of these sessions, and then they will be available on our YouTube for everybody. So for anybody who didn't get to attend, and then also for people who maybe it moves a little bit too quickly for them and they need a little bit more time to kind of, listen to it, really kind of take it in, and then set up their Google Classrooms. It is 1:31. We've had a couple of people join. We're at 23 now. I would say we can go ahead and get started. What do you think, Mandy? Go ahead and start now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my entire screen with everybody. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. Presenting to everyone. There we go. Okay, so we are going over Google Classroom in this session. So we're going to go over the basics. I'm going to show you guys just how we're going to go through this, and then, oh, there we go. Then, if you have any questions, send them in the chat to Mandy, and then we'll answer them as we're going through. So there's a couple different ways, first of all, to go to Google Classroom. So it kind of just depends. You can do classroom.google.com, and this takes you immediately to right here. That's the way that I always go to it, just because it's an easy format to remember, because that's the Google format for everything. So if you're trying to go to Google Classroom, you do classroom.google.com. If you're going to do Docs, you do docs.google.com. So there's a formula that goes with that. You can also do this. So once you're in your ECISD Gmail, you can go to your waffle right here in the top right-hand corner, and then click Classroom from there. So it really just kind of depends on your preference and what you feel most comfortable with. But the big thing is you want to make sure that you're signed into your ECISD Gmail, which is first.last@ecisd.school. One of the big things that we see is people do first.last@ectorcountyisd.org, and that's not the right way to go about it. It's at ecisd.school. So once you're in Google Classroom, right here in this top right-hand corner, you want to go ahead and create a class. Given the situation we're in right now, what I would imagine is we're not differentiating a whole bunch. We've either got elementary teachers who are throwing all of their classes in there, or middle school or secondary, middle school or high school teachers who are doing either all of their classes or just separating by content and class period. So I could just do Bartlett Spring 2020 for mine, and I don't really need to do anything here. That's personal preference. If you need that stuff there, then you can put that in there, and then you just want to do create right here, and it'll take a little bit, take just a couple of seconds to do that. So once we're in here, the very first thing that I want you guys to see is right here is where you're going to find your class code. Your class code will always be right there underneath your class title, the name of your class. So the class code for this is 46LRTA3. So you can share that with your students. I don't know how everybody in the district kind of has a different way of communicating with parents. But if you've got, Class Dojo or Remind, or you have a way that you're already sending out information, disseminating information to parents and to students, then sending out that class code through that would be very, very simple, and it gets them to just join your class immediately. So we have this right here. You can also do, so you can add, if you've got co-teachers, or if you're going to be doing this as, I know right now we're kind of like all hands on deck. So here at what we've been doing is, maybe I'll create something, and then I allow Mandy and my other coworkers to have access to it. So if I wanted to, I could add additional. So right now I could add Mandy to be a teacher in my class, and then she's got all the rights that I've got. So she can assign students work. She can look at grades. She can help me. So if she's got, if we're in the same department, let's say we were both in the ELAR department, and she had a bunch of stuff that I wanted or that we needed for our class, and we kind of wanted to run it together, we could definitely do that by creating one class and then being co-teachers within that class. And I don't know, Mandy, is there a limit on the number of teachers that you can do? So I don't think there is, right? So if you wanted to do a whole department and just have kind of, I think you could. And then also, one of the big things that even before we had this going on, even before things got kind of crazy with, not being in school at all and trying to continue instruction remotely, it was hard enough to get students to join our Google Classroom sometimes. So I want you to know that you always have the ability to add students yourself. So what that'll do, so if I do this and I want to add so if I wanted to add our EdTech account, so what it'll look like is I just search, and you can do that for your students. You just search their names or their ID numbers and it comes up. So then I'm going to invite them. So what this is going to do, and I'll show y'all what it looks like on that end. So now it shows that they're invited. Mandy, did my Firefox just come up for y'all? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sign in on our EdTech one. That way I can show y'all what it looks like for the student. Okay, so in here, I'm now signed in here, and I just want to go to Classroom. And so now all I had to do, and so all your students will have to do is go to Classroom. They don't have to type in anything. They don't have to do anything. All they've got to do is click join right here, and then they're in. So if you have students that you know maybe it's going to be difficult to get them in just using the code, you might just, and it's not always the easiest thing to do because, some classes, maybe you've only got 25 to 30 students, but maybe like in secondary, you've got like 150 kids or something. So maybe it's not necessarily as feasible, but you do have the option of doing that, of adding your students manually. So if I go back here, okay, so now I'm back in here. So there's a few different ways. So what it's always going to look like, and this is almost kind of like a social media kind of thing. So your stream, everything that you post, it comes up on the stream, and whatever the last thing you posted is going to be the most recent thing. It's going to be the top thing on the stream, right? So when your students are getting into the class and they're wanting to know what they have due and all of that, they don't necessarily have to go directly to Classwork. It'll show up here on the stream. And then also right here on upcoming, when you're creating assignments, if you're putting in due dates, then that's going to show up here on the upcoming, and they're going to know, okay, on Friday I need to have this quiz done, and on Monday I've got this vocabulary part done, I need to have that done as well. So I'm going to show you the different kinds of posts that you can do. Or really quickly, I'm sorry, let's stop for a second. Are there any questions so far? Yes, Mandy, what have we got so far? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll slow down. Yes, I'm sorry about that, guys. That is my fault. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, yes.
Getting the information to the students when we manually add them, is that something we have to get from our rosters?
So like, no, are you asking like, if you have to add them manually, do you have to get information from your rosters?
Yeah, like how would I add them?
So all you would do, on here, you would go to people and you would add, so you can just type in their names, right? Yeah, so you would just type in their name here. So, I mean, yeah, you would have to figure out, so if you have, you could just have your grade book open, your Texas grade book, and you could just go one by one and type them in. But that's really all you'll have to do is either just their name or their ID number.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes. Anything else before we continue?
Can we add students?
Can we do what?
Can we add all the students from our school? If so, we do character education.
Okay, so let me go. How many students are we talking about? What school are we talking? Adding students from our school, because I think Burleson Elementary. So I think that there is a cap on the number of students. Is it 1,000? Okay, so I think per classroom there's a cap of 1,000 students. So 540 students should work. So if you wanted to do one class where you're going to do character education, that should work. Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Okay, cap the limit number of students that can be in a Google Classroom. It is 1,000. So if you'll see here, we have a G Suite for education account. So if we were just had a regular Google account, it would be 250. But because we have our ECISD G Suite for education account, then the limit is 1,000. So there's also no limit to number of classes you can create. So don't feel like there's that there might be you might get cut off or anything. You can have up to 1,000 members in a classroom, and you can have as many classes as you need. Okay. Oh, the email to log in to get started is first.last@ecisd.school. So I'm going to type it in here. So it's first name dot last name at ecisd.school. Yes. And then for students, it's ID number. For them to log in, it's ID number at ecisd.school.
I have a question as well.
Yes. Go ahead. I think you got muted.
Could you go back and show where it was to create the actual class?
Yes, I'll go back and show that. Okay, so what you'll do is, so remember there are two different ways for us to get to Google Classroom. So if you're in your Gmail, you can just go to your waffle and just click Classroom there, or you can type it in classroom.google.com. So what you're going to want to do is however you get to Google Classroom, you do that, and then you just click this plus sign in the top right-hand corner, and you're going to click Create Class, and then fill out. Usually the big thing is just to fill out the name and give it a name that your students are going to recognize, and that also helps you kind of differentiate it from other classes that you're either in as a student or as a teacher. And so that's how you would do that to actually create the class. And then I see Don Abbott, you asked, would it be better to use student ID since students have similar names or the exact same names in the district? Yeah, I think to make sure that you're adding your student and you know for a fact that it is going to be your student, adding by your ID, by the ID number, I think is a good way to go about it. And it does pick it up. So if you were to go in here, if you were to start typing in, so as soon as I type in 3, it just starts pulling them up. So you can search them and add them by ID number. And I think that's actually I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's actually a really good way to go about it and to make sure that you're adding the kid that you need in your classroom for that. Okay, so I'm gonna go back here. So there are 2 different ways that you can add assignments and announcements into your class when you're on stream. This is when you click right here. So what I just did is right here where it says share something with your class, you click this, and this is how I can just share an announcement for my students. Like if I'm not going to share necessarily an assignment like a quiz or anything, but I need them to know, maybe it's like a welcome announcement, like, hey guys, thank you for joining our class. Bear with me as we set this up for you guys. Be on the lookout for incoming work and a schedule for that. Then maybe I would just do that right here. You can also, just because it's an announcement and not an assignment doesn't mean you can't add attachments to it. But you can do that right here. And what's always been really nice about Google is that you can add whatever Google owns, you can add from. So if you're adding a YouTube link, you can just do that directly from here. You can also add a file from your computer, and then anything that you have in your Google Drive, you just click right there and it immediately just takes you to your Google Drive. So you can either search there, or if it's in your recents, you can just add it from there, right? So it kind of just is up to you and kind of what you've got going on. Everybody has different needs, and really just everybody has different needs and runs their classrooms a little bit differently. So it's kind of whatever you're functioning with and need. When you do the YouTube, you just click right there, and then you would just search. So if you've got something automatically, so if you already know of something that you need, you would just type in the title there. Or if you're going to look and see, like, okay, what do they have for ELAR or figurative language? I could do like and then it has this. So what I would do is I would just click it right there, make sure that it's selected, and then I would just add it, and that's automatically going to add that to my students or share it with my students. That way I'm not having to fight with URLs and hyperlinks and stuff. You can just, because Google owns YouTube, you can just automatically share that right there. And so what I would do is just, you need that, you have to type something out. So just, hello, everyone. I can share this with some of my students or all of my students. So if I had more students, if there are certain students that I want to share it with and certain students I don't, I can come in here and I can mess with that and kind of change it. I can also set, instead of just posting it automatically, I can schedule this to be posted at a later date. So I know a lot of people, and especially right now, we're planning whenever we can, however we can. And so sometimes we're doing a bunch of work right then that is maybe not necessarily going to be completed or done immediately. So sometimes you need to schedule things out in advance, right? So what you would do is, instead of just clicking post right there, because if I just click post, it's going to post it right now. I would click this little drop down right here, and I can either save it as a draft that I want to come back to later, or I can schedule it. And this is really simple. You just schedule it for whenever it is, the time, and then I would just click schedule. And so now it's done, it's there, and all I've got to do is wait for that to come. And everything that you schedule and that you save is going to stay right here in saved announcements, so that if you need to edit it at another time, you can do that. If you think like, oh, I'm not really happy with that, you can go in and you can delete it as well. It's kind of up to you, however you need to do it. So that's the first way of sharing information with your students. The second way is here in the Classwork section. So what's really nice about Google Classroom is whenever we go to Classwork, it's got everything for me right here. If it's an assignment, a quiz, just a basic question, if there's a material, or if I'm going to reuse something, if it's something that I've already done, we're not necessarily going to do that. That's like for a class that has gone on for a really long time. But then we've also got topics. So everybody runs their classes differently, and everybody organizes their classrooms differently. What I have always suggested is, however you organize your class, that's how you should set up your topics. So there are some people that organize their classes by date, right? So if I wanted to do that, then maybe this topic would be, March 23rd through the 27th, and I would have all of my assignments that I wanted them to complete during that week, that span of time, I would just put in that topic, right? And then that way, I don't know how long this is going to last. We're hearing different things kind of all over the place, but at least 2 weeks is what we've got. And I think Governor Abbott may have said it's actually a little bit longer than that. So sometimes it's easier just to have it based on the time frame, like March 23rd to the 27th, here's all the work that you needed to complete during that time. But there's also, you can do it, if I'm in ELAR and I've got, okay, I would need all my figurative language assignments are going to be right here. And then all of my quizzes, or I just put quizzes, assessments will be right here. And then maybe I would do journaling or something as well. And that way, it's not necessarily it's not by the week, but it's just based on the type of work that I'm going to have them do. However you want to do this, I would just really figure that out before you start assigning work. That way you have a method of organization that you can explain to the students and that they're able to kind of grasp going in. You can also, right here in these 3 dots, you can either rename. So let's say that you had something and you wanted it to work a certain way, but then you're like, oh no, I actually want to do it by week. You don't have to delete all these topics. You can just rename them and go from there. You can also delete. And then also what's really nice is you can just drag them up or down. So you're in control of how you organize this class. It's really, really up to you. I don't necessarily think there's a better way, one way or the other. I think it kind of just depends on what you think works best for you and what you think will work best for your students. I would just really, really recommend that you do figure out a way that you want to organize it. So then, aside from that, whenever I go to create things, here are the different types of posts that you can do, right? So if you just need to, if you need to share out maybe a story that everybody's going to use for a section, right? So maybe it's like a PDF set of pages from a textbook, or it's a short story or something, then you would just do that here in the material. That way it's not an assignment, but it is a piece of material that a resource that they're going to use for their assignments. And then, so maybe I could just so I would just write, short story here, do a little description, and then I'm going to add it either from a file or my Google Drive. And then, so I'll just add something random from my Google Drive just so you guys can see kind of how that looks. Okay, so if I do just something from here, and then, so I would just click that, add it, and so now it's got that here. And then on this right-hand side, I can decide where I want, what topic I want this to go, and that's really where this organization comes into play. As soon as you start creating assignments, then you can have them going in however you want this organized. So if I do March 23rd to the 27th, and maybe I don't want it to go to all of my students, I only want it, since I only have one student, it has to go to all of my students. But if I had more, I could switch that up as well. And then I would just I could just post it. What I also want to show you guys is, let's see, let me create one more assignment. On this one, I'll actually do a regular assignment. I'll just do practice assignment. I'll do it again from my Google Drive. Let's see. Just do that. Okay, so here, this is what it looks like when you're actually going to assign an assignment. So here on the right-hand side, you can decide how many points you want it to be, right? So if it's 100, it's 100. If it's maybe like an extra credit assignment or something, usually everybody just goes 100. This is a big one, setting up a due date and time, right? So let's say I want this to be due on the 24th at 11:59 p.m. They have until midnight on Tuesday the 24th, and I want this to be in my figurative language. I can set all of this up, and then you can set up, if you've got a rubric that you want, you can add that immediately. You can also turn on originality reports, which if you are having them do some kind of written assignment, an essay or something where you're afraid or you are concerned that they might do, there might be some plagiarism, you can turn on the originality reports, and that's going to do it for you, where it's going to look at that. So we'll do that. And then I'll assign it now. And so now on that stream coming up right here where it says upcoming, on that stream, it's letting them know at by 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, you need to complete that practice assignment, which that helps out quite a bit, I think, in making sure, the students who are going to look at that stuff, it's going to let them know, oh, hey, I've got this coming up. And it kind of keeps us, teachers and everybody from having to constantly tell them, remind them, this is due, this is coming up. Let's see. Mandy, do we have anything so far? Are we good? Okay, cool. What is also really good is your Google Classroom creates a Google Calendar and a Class Drive folder specific to that Google Classroom. So when I look at this Google Calendar now, the Google Calendar specifically for this classroom will show me right here, I've got this assignment due. So it links to my account, right? But it starts to keep track of what we've got due in this classroom. So your students can look at their calendar and see, okay, for this class, I've got these things due, right? What's also really nice is in this Class Drive folder, everything that I put in this class will go in this Class Drive folder for the students, right? Let's see, and let me go, here are your grades. It'll keep up with your students and your assignments, and you can just go in and do some fast grading through there. If you're doing a quiz assignment, So you can create the quiz from here. So how you would do that is you would go, let me do that from the beginning, I'm sorry. So what you would do is you would go to create, you would create your quiz assignment, and what it's going to do is it's going to create a blank Google form quiz right there. So I'm going to title this practice quiz. And then when I go here, so I'm going to leave grade importing on right here. That way, whatever grade, if I'm going to keep it multiple choice. And so whatever grade the students got, it automatically throws it into my grade book. So I'm not having to go through and manually grade these, right? So I'm going to go back here to this blank quiz, title it practice. When you're creating your quiz, let's just call it practice quiz up here. Google Forms talks really well with Google Classroom. So here on this assignment or on your questions, if you've never created a Google form, I'll walk you through this really quickly. Here is your first question. I would always suggest, and I think this is probably one of the better ways to do it. Well, and actually, since it's already doing import grades, it's not necessarily as important now as it would be before. But it's always, I always think it's a good habit to do a short answer and have them write their name in there. That way, if it's not a multiple choice quiz, then you have that information ready and going to put in to the grade book. So you would do that. That could be your only short answer. Adding questions, you just do right here, this plus sign right here to add a question. I would suggest multiple choice works out a lot, but they do have a lot of different types of answer or question types. So you've got your short answer question types, paragraph, checkboxes, drop down. You can also upload a file. So if you've got a picture that you want to ask them a question about, or if there's a specific thing, a file that you need to upload in there, you can do that. For math, you can do linear scale, multiple choice grid, checkbox grid, and you can also do date and time for like history things. So here is this. So you can type in you can put in your question here. You can add as many answer choices as you want, right? So it starts you off at 1, but you can add options as you're going, right? Some of these options can even be, or all of these options, I'm sorry, can be images. There's a lot of different ways for you to customize the classroom that you're putting out to your students, but also you can customize a lot of the work that you put out, the assignments that you do as well. Then if you wanted to do multiple choice, all you would do is you would take off this required, right? So it's, if they get it right, great. They get the multiple choice, or not, I'm sorry, they get the extra credit. I don't know why I said multiple choice, sorry. They get the extra credit if it's not required and they answer it correctly, or if you want them to answer it, then it has to be required, right? This is to shuffle every time you want to do that, shuffle option order. So you would click right here and you would check this. That makes it to where it's not just showing up the exact same every time. So again, if you're kind of looking at what few measures we have to keep from dishonesty while we're doing these things, this is something that you can do as well. Again, because this is Google, you can add videos to this through YouTube. You can add different sections in here, images. You can change titles and descriptions for your different sections. It kind of just depends a lot on what you want and how you're wanting it to look like. But I'll just have this here. It's my practice quiz. You can also make a copy of these and just kind of have that ready for you. Let's see. So I'm going to have that. I can send it. I don't necessarily have to, but I can also send it to my classroom. I can send it to my collaborators, and I can send it to teachers that I'm working with if I want them to look at it and go from there. Okay. I'm going to assign that now. And what's also really great about Google Classroom and Google Forms, everything Google, is it saves automatically. So anytime I make a change on this quiz, it automatically saves. Anytime I make a change on a Google Doc or a Google slide or a sheet, it automatically saves. It's the same thing here. Let me go back here and show you what it looks like on the student side. So yes.
It will also show them how it looks like when a student turns in their work.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm here. I'm the student again. I'm EdTech in the EdTech account. So if I look right here, I've got this practice assignment. So I can click that and it takes me directly to my assignment, right? So I click, got it here. Let's see. Let me actually go back and create something that's actually like something that they have to do. Or I guess I can just do it here. Okay, I'm going to go to the practice quiz. So I would just type in here. Students can have send them a copy of their responses as well. And then I would submit it. And because I didn't do anything with the answer key or anything, if I did, I could do a view my score right there and it would show, right? But since I didn't have that set up, it doesn't have it there. But this is what it would look like if you had them do a quiz and then it answers or it shows them their answers and what they got right or wrong. On here, yes.
One question. I am trying to follow here in my Google account how to create a quiz on Google Docs. How do you post it once that you have your questions? I put to practice questions. How do you your quiz from your Google Doc to your Google Classroom account?
Okay, how do you post something from your Google Doc to a Google Classroom account?
Yeah, I already did the quiz. I just now.
Did you create the quiz through Google Forms?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what you would do. So let me go back here to, sorry, this laptop is much smaller than what I'm used to dealing with. So I would go back here to Classwork. So if I created a quiz on my own, like, okay, so what I showed you is if you create a quiz within Google Classroom, but you're saying you created a quiz outside of Google Classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, this one I created it on Google Classroom. It was
you created it.
Yeah, I was
so
following.
If you created it inside Google Classroom, then it should just show up automatically. But if you created it as a Google form and then you're adding it to a Google Classroom, that's different.
Okay, because I went through Google Classroom. I follow your steps here.
Okay.
I went to Google Classroom, create quiz, and it sent me to a blank Google Docs. And from there, well, no.
Okay, so let me. So you went here to create quiz assignment. And then you click this.
Yes.
Okay, and then you created a quiz through here.
I input all the information, question 1, some options.
So then all you need to do is click assign, and then it saves. So okay, so remember whenever I did mine, I created it like this, but I didn't send it to anybody. I just showed you could. I just went back here and I clicked assign, and then on my student side, it showed them, Mandy and everybody, the quiz as I created it, right? So what you'll do, let's go back. So I'll just show you again, okay? Let me do this.
But the thing here is that it doesn't let me to click on assign.
Okay, so if we go create quiz assignment, and then I'm going to go back here to blank quiz.
Yeah.
Let me just make some changes on my end, just so I can see what it looks like. So I'm just going to do practice 2. I'm going to change this to short answer. I'm going to put name. And then what I'll do on this time, I'll just say, Okay, so then I've got one question. I'm going to put my answer key. It's blue, so I'm going to put that, put done. Okay, so now this is how my quiz looks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to send it to anybody or anything. And also, really quickly, guys, you can customize your class or your quiz. You can customize the theme here. You can change colors. You can also add an image for your header. So if I wanted to do something like this, I would just click that and I would click insert. Okay, so now I've got that, right? So I'm not going to send it to anybody. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to put practice quiz.
Oh, okay.
Practice quiz. Part 2. So then, is this the part? Does this make sense now? You would go back here and you would click assign here.
Yeah. It
Okay.
didn't
So then that's what you would do.
title.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it didn't let me to click assign.
Oh, because you have to add the title and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
Anybody else? Questions or anything? How are we doing, Mandy? We're good.
Yeah,
Okay. Is there anything anybody wants me to go in back over, or are there any questions right now of things where we need to go now?
I have another question.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You say that when students answer a quiz,
Yes.
it graded automatically. How does
Yeah.
it look like once the student has already answered the quiz?
Okay. So let me go back here where there's actually a quiz. Let's see. Let me go back to this. Okay. So practice quiz part 2. So I'm back in as a student. So I'll do this again. Okay, so this is what it looks. Okay, so remember I put this in. So I'm going to click red, right? And I'll submit it. And now I want to view my score. So what it's going to do is it's going to show me on my end as a student. So because I've got this short answer in here as my name, it's not going to give her or give the question immediately or the grade immediately, because I'm going to have to go in and grade this part, right? But it tells them immediately what question they got wrong or right and what the correct answer was. So that's what it looks like on their end. And then if I go back here, so grades, so I know I can just do 50 here, right? So it kind of just depends. So if I wanted to do it straight up multiple choice, it would just put in the answer, or it would put in the entire grade. But because I did the short answer by adding the name, it's not going to put the entire grade in. So if you want to do your quiz and you want to do it where it grades it for you, right, then you would just do have grade importing on and do only multiple choice and give those multiple choice. So you want to put in how many points it's worth as well. So I didn't do that. So I would do 10. Let's see. Practice 3. Okay, then I'm gonna go back to my answer key and put yes, it did rain. So now I'm gonna go back in here. I'm gonna assign it. I'm gonna go back in here. Go to practice. Oh. Go to practice 3. On this one. Also, really quickly, I want to show you guys. That's one thing I knew I was forgetting, is a student can leave a private comment for you and you can leave a comment for them. if they're struggling with something or they need some help or something, then the comment section is right here, and it's tied to the assignments, right? So if I go here, do practice 3. Okay. So now I can view my score, and it shows yes, and I got 10 out of 10 points. So then I'll go back here. Oh, why didn't it put the grade in? Andy, do you know why it wouldn't have done that? Because we have grade importing on. Oh, well, no, because it added that part. It should just add it. Well, yeah, I don't know, but that's what it should do. Is it should just add it immediately, and it could be because I don't want to sit y'all down and I don't want to go through and do 10 questions on it, and I only did 1, so it would be 10 whenever I said it was worth 100. So, but that's how it should look, and that's how it'll go. You can keep your grades in here. What really is kind of frustrating, and we've been working on it for quite a while, or trying to, is the grading that we do Texas Gradebook, and that system does not work it won't integrate with Google Classroom. Google Classroom grading has integrated with a lot of other different grading systems, but Texas Gradebook is not one of them. Right now, I think they are in their newest updates trying to work on that, and I think it's kind of been in the beta right now. They're beta testing it. So we're not there yet right now. So what you would do is you can keep your grades through here, and then you would just move them over to Texas Gradebook. Do we have anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm an art teacher, and I'm gonna have students upload their pictures of their artwork and send it. Is there any way to put that on a thumbnails so that I can scan a class at a time?
Like a thumb drive? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I've been told by another art teacher that you can put it. It'll look like thumbnails so that you see like a whole class pictures at one time.
On the assignment?
Yeah, is it a classroom?
I'm not sure if it's on the assignments or on the screen.
So yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. So what you would do, okay, so if you're doing art, right? So how would you have them? So you would have them, they would need to turn something in, right? So you would create an assignment,
Right.
and you would say, they're going to have to turn something into you. So when you would create that assignment, what you would do is they would turn it into you, they would submit it, right?
Right.
And then right here where you go to view assignment, so I only have 1 student in my class, right? But see right here where it says student work, if I had more students in my class, it would show all of their work right there, all of their assignments, right? Okay. And so that's probably what they were talking about, is whenever they would submit their work, the picture of their work, then that's where it would show up as a thumbnail. I'm sorry, I misunderstood it first.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah, no problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
Let me clarify this. When we're adding students to Google Classroom,
yes,
we add them manually, or can they be transferred or imported from their gradebook?
Yeah, so they'll either have to do the code, or you'll have to add them manually.
Okay. So at this point, it'd probably be the best thing to add them manually.
Yeah, I think so. I think in a lot of ways, and it can be really tedious and really time consuming. But I've always found that was kind of like you got the most bang for your buck on that, right? Like you weren't fighting as much, because sometimes whenever you were just kind of trusting them to do the code, there's so many variables that it could go wrong in. But if you just add them manually, literally all they have to do is go to Google Classroom and then just click join, and that's it.
Okay, because I already have some frustrated parents, so that's why I was asking.
Oh, okay.
So it would be better. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So could you go through and walk them through like assigning each student has their own copy?
Yes. Okay. So here's how. So whenever you're doing, and that's a big one too. When we're doing something like a doc. So if I just go, let me do this really quickly. I'm gonna go docs.google.com. I'm just going to create just a, let's see. So I'm just going to title this as soon as it loads. I'm just going to title it Practice Vocabulary. And so this is already saved. This just stays here. So if I'm going to create an assignment and you want, because a lot of times you don't want them to mess with the original, like the original copy that you have whenever it comes to the assignment, but you want them to be able to edit the assignment and turn in their own copy. So what you would do is you would go to assignment and I would just say, you know, vocabulary assignment. And then I'm going to add this from my Google Drive. Practice vocabulary. And then right here where it says students can view file, we don't want it to where they can view file. We want them to be able to edit this within here and turn it in. Because if they view it, then they have to make a copy and that becomes this whole like tedious headache. And you don't want them to just edit the file because then that means there's just one file and they all edit the exact same file. What you want to do is you want to make a copy for each student because now every student gets assigned their own copy of this vocabulary document. They get to edit it on their own and then they get to turn it in and they haven't messed with my original at all. So that I can still hold on to that for future classes where I can assign it. And so then you would just do this, you would do assign. And if I had more students, then it would just have multiple copies and each student would get their own copy. It's just the, let's see, let me plug in my, there we go, okay. Okay, anything else? Yes.
Could you go to the stream and add an announcement? Show them how to
show an announcement? Yes. So when you're in the stream right here, all you'll do is click share with your class here, and then this just operates as an announcement, right? It automatically shows up right there. So you can just say, you know, so you would just do that, and then you can add, again, you can add a YouTube video, a file, a link, whatever, however you want to do it. And then you would just click post, or you could schedule it, and that just shoots it out as an as an announcement for your class. And so that'll be something. And again, on the stream, whatever is posted most recently shows up at the top, right? So as you build your class, your stream, as you assign more things and do more announcements, your stream will get more, it'll fill out a lot more. And then also your upcoming, so what you have due and everything, as you start to create assignments that have due dates and things, those will show up here as well. And again, here you can select a theme, you can upload your own photo. However you want to customize your class, you can do that a lot on your own. I'm using a coworker's laptop, so I don't have anything on here. But you know, however you want to do it. And again, class code right here, if you want to do it that way, class code is always right there. Or if you want to add them manually, it's always, you just do this and type it in that way.
Do you want to talk about the stream and the stream being available to either only teachers, students can turn off, the teachers can turn off the commenting on the stream?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So on your, whenever you have students in here, you can turn off their commenting. Hold on one second. I'm not, this is, it's freezing up on my end. Mandy, can you take over so I can? presenting your entire screen?
Let me unmute again. Can y'all see my online learning page? Yes, okay, thank you guys. Okay, so on this stream, Chris just showed you how we could share the announcement by clicking right here. So if you go to the gear wheel, the gear wheel will show you the general things that are already on there. And so there's a stream under general, and under this stream, you can put where only teachers can post or comment. Just with past experience, you just want to cut down on the possibilities of students putting inappropriate things on there. And so allowing this space for you could be, I don't know, just a nice feature. Also, where it says classwork on the stream, I prefer to hide my notifications of the classwork, so that way students will only see the announcements that come out and not every assignment, because then it could get quite busy. And so just think about that. So I'm going to show you one more time how to get there. It's through this little gear wheel that's in the right upper hand corner next to the waffle, and then that information is under general, and then where you see stream, if that helps you. And then another thing to think about is parents. So our students are the ones with the @ecisd.school account, so they're the ones that can be a part of our classrooms. We can invite the guardians, and so that happens under your people tab. And so you see I have a student in my classroom, so I would just click on invite guardian, and I would type in their email address and go from that way to invite them. And then your parents should get an email just to see what's going on in your classroom.
The turning off the stream, that would only keep them from commenting publicly. They could still leave private comments.
Yes, they could still leave private comments.
Okay. That was your next one, 2:30.
And so because I'm the teacher, I could still add the class comment, but underneath there, the student should be able to see a place for that private comment underneath there. Kira, I see, would that not allow them to ask questions then? Yes, that's true. So it's up to you. It's just person preference on how you would choose to go about it. So. All right, I'll let Chris take back over. I'll mute myself from here.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. My computer froze up on me and I couldn't get where I needed to go. But we've got about 5 minutes left. If there are any kind of questions on the end, or how are we all feeling, or if there's anything kind of left unanswered, if you guys, this would be a time to kind of ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to break up the Google Classrooms into class periods, or is that even advisable?
Yeah, so and that goes with how you want to do it, right? So in middle school and high schools, a lot of what they've done is teachers will create a specific Google Classroom for each class period, right? So for their first period, they have a different Google Classroom than for their second period or third period. And I think that helps out a lot. That way you're dealing with maybe, 25 to 30 students per class rather than one class of like 120 students, right? So I think, yeah, that's definitely advisable. And it kind of just depends on how you want to do it and how many students you have. But I think definitely if you've got a lot of students, breaking it up by class period and having a specific Google Classroom for each class period, I think that helps out quite a bit.
Okay, how do you do that?
So you would just create, whenever you're creating these, right? Let me share my screen again. Okay. Cool. Okay, so what you would do is whenever you're creating, so what I did is I just created Bartlett Spring 2020, right? But what I would do then is if I'm creating a class, I could just do, Bartlett, ELAR, first period, and then I would just create this class, and I would create a second class, Bartlett, ELAR, second period. So you would just manage more classes, but you can have different, you can keep the same assignments and stuff on there. You would just post them in all of your different classes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can do copy as well, the copy feature as well. And then I will also send out. We're going to post these onto our YouTube, and in the description part of our YouTube, I'll add there's an extension for Chrome that allows you. It's an add-on, and you can post assignments and announcements to all of your classes at one time rather than having to do it individually. So be on the lookout for that. We'll send out the YouTube link as soon as we get this uploaded. So, but let's see if there's anything else. What do we have here? When do we need all this up and running? So I think that's up to your principals. I think is really. I think they were saying we're going to start next week. They want everything up, instruction taking place next week. But it really kind of just depends on. I would follow up with your principal on that. And then if there's, as you're starting to do this, like once you start getting in, this is supposed to be just like basics, get you there. Once you start actually creating this and putting in all of your assignments and stuff, reach out to us, reach out to your campus specialist, shoot us an email or call us up here, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with any kind of issues that you run into or any kind of help that you need. Thank you all very much. We really, really appreciate it. If there's anything else, we'll be on the line. But if not, thank you guys for attending, and we will send these out very quickly. So as soon as we can get it uploaded, we'll get it out to you guys. Thank you all for doing so well today. We really appreciate it.
Let's hang on for about.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang on. Several participants left the meeting. When is yours? When's your next one?
I think our next one's at
3:30.
3:30.
Okay. Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not you at 3:30?
No, I'm tomorrow.
Okay, I think that's everybody. I think everybody's leaving. I think the only ones on still are me, you, Jessica, and Jasmine Bryant. Okay, so I am gonna.
Can you stop the recording, or do you want me to?
Let me go to. Where do you stop the recording? Oh, the three dots right here. Stop recording. Got it.